Everybody, welcome to Phonogenics 101. I am your host, Jeremy Gloff, and this is the Joni Mitchell panel. We've been together for over a year. We've talked about every studio album, for better or worse, in everyone's opinion. I still feel a little PTSD from the last discussion because I sure love that Shine album, but not everyone else did. I was telling the panel before I started the video, like, I love the songs Hannah and Night of the Iguana. And the next morning, like the morning after our podcast, I was blasting in my car, making sure no one saw me because I didn't want to get judged. But anyway, you already know the whole panel. Y'all love them because everyone here is so lovable. But tonight, thanks to my Patreon subscribers. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the YouTube subscribers. We're almost to 500 subscribers, so that's pretty cool. Because I don't do really shit to promote. I suck at promoting myself. But anyway, Sue, thanks for posting these in the all over the place. You're the real star here. All right, tonight we're talking about Joni's two iconic live albums. Well, one of them is iconic. The other one, well, we'll get to that. But we are here to talk about Miles of Isles from 1975, is it? 1974, okay. 1974.
November.
And then, of course, I know the year that this one came out, Shadows and Light from 1980. I have the original CD, then the 2 CD version. I have the VHS. I also bought this one for the next tour, the same day. And then I have the DVD. So I have a lot of Shadows and Light, a little Miles of Isles. But we're basically going to talk about the versions of the songs. We all know and love. I think we love all these songs. I don't think there's any songs really here that we don't love. But we can talk about the versions. Oh, Chris, I see a little controversy. I like that. The ratings will go up. Miles of Isles. This is her first album attributed, wasn't it, Joni Mitchell and the LA Express? They did play on Court and Spark, and of course Tom Scott played on For the Roses, but this album was actually credited to Joni Mitchell and the LA Express. Even though the first thing you hear on the album is, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Joni Mitchell. So they don't get any shout out at the beginning, but they are on the album cover. The legend is that Joni Mitchell had a painting, but it didn't make it out to the printing press in time, right? So wasn't this supposed to be printed and something happened, so she had to hurry up and finish the cover? Has anyone else heard that story, or am I totally imagining things?
I didn't hear that.
Yes, I heard that somewhere, and I think that's why the later CDs have the printing on them. So I do remember the original LP had a nice little, you could turn the page, and there's a nice picture of her with a beret and all the boys from LA Express. She was dating the drummer, John. Tom Scott was doing the woodwinds. There it is. Jim's got it. Joni looking very, very 1974. That whole group, very 1974. Court and Spark was her first album with a full band. She decided to take the band on the road. The band decided to put full band versions to some of the songs from her first 6 albums. Was it at that point? Yeah, 6. So this was the bridge between Court and Spark and the Hissing of Summer Lawns. Who would like to start off with their thoughts about Miles of Isles? Oh, so we have Mark, we have Bob, and then Jack, I believe.
This album has a real special place in my heart. I know not everybody likes it all that well, but for one thing, I don't think I owned Blue or For the Roses at this point, so I had never heard those songs before. And the live solo versions are, I think, absolutely gorgeous of those songs. And I love it. Some of the LA Express stuff I'm not that crazy about, but I don't know. I think this album is a classic. It presented her at this point in time, and it's a good dive into her back catalog. There's only one Court and Spike cut on this, and I don't know if that was marketing. They figured, oh, we just put out that album and we don't want to have a lot of live versions of it. We want people to buy Court and Spark. But anyway, that's all I'll say for now.
All right. Was it Bob then Jack, or Jack then Bob and then Chris?
So I also have a kind of a special place in my heart for this album. I certainly talked about this in the past, on the web and what have you. But it's part of my annual rite of spring. The first beautiful day in Chicago, whether it's in March or April or whenever it is, that first 70-degree day after a long, cold Chicago winter, I put the top down, maybe get a little toasted, and play Miles of Aisles driving through the country. And it's become like an annual thing. The first time I did it, I was driving a Jeep with the spare tire on the side and was so raptured by the music that as I'm driving through a parking lot, I clipped a car with the spare tire and saw it bouncing behind me. But that's the only really bad thing that ever happened while I was listening to this. But anyway, it's my Rite of Spring album. First perfect day in Chicago. You can count on me playing this with the top down.
What's interesting, Jack, I had a Joni seasonal tradition. I used to play in my hometown when I lived in New York. The first day the snowflakes, the first time it snowed, I'd always play the song Don Juan's Reckless Daughter.
Nice.
So there you go. All right, we have Bob and then Chris.
So yeah, the LA on 74 tour, the LA Express opened for Joni. So they did like a 4 or 5 song set. There's a bootleg out there. I think it's Universal Amphitheater where some of this was actually recorded that has that full LA Express set of all instrumental stuff. So, they didn't get introduced because they opened, they're on stage, and then the guy comes out and says, ladies and gentlemen, Joni Mitchell joins the band, for her gig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you have to understand, and at this point in time, this is November of 74, Joni had been on Time magazine. This album it reached number 2 on the Billboard Top 200. Mm-hmm. Joni was huge. She really was huge. She was coming into her own commercially. Really interesting that she only did one. She's touring Court and Spark, right? And typically, if you're touring an album, you do 5, 6, 7 songs from the album as part of your tour. Well, we all know that Joni doesn't play by the usual rules of the game. So she did one song from Court and Spark on this tour. In 76, she would do a lot of them, even Twisted and whatnot. But on this tour, all she was People's Parties was the only one she did.
So that wasn't just on the album, Bob? That was representative for the tour?
Yeah, no, as far as I know, no. I mean, I've had quite a few 74 shows, and People's Parties were the only one that she did. And it was, kind of a subdued treatment of that song. Yeah. So really, 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 really interesting. The album was recorded at 3 different locations, 3 different times. Universal Amphitheater and Cactus Tree Only was recorded March 4th at the LA Music Center. For Free was recorded March 2nd at the Berkeley Community Center. And it was called on this on this record, Real Good for Free. On Ladies of the Canyon, she called it For Free. And on this record, she called it Real Good for Free, which I wish she had named it Real Good for Free because it's a whole lot easier to search for covers under Real Good for Free than just For Free. You type in For Free in the internet and you see what it gets you. You'll be in trouble. So that's just a little bit of trivia about the record. Like I said, it did reach number 2. There was a single released from it. It was Big Yellow Taxi with the B-side of Rainy Night House, which surprisingly, when the original Big Yellow Taxi single was released off of Ladies of the Canyon, it only went to number 76. The live version from this album, because of Joni's rise in popularity in this 4-year period, it reached number 24. It was her 4th consecutive top 40 single. So that was just this kind of interesting, shows you how her fan base had grown in that period of time. So I did not get this record when it came out. I had Court and Spark. I didn't get Miles of Aisles until I joined the BMG Record Club. You see the little BMG number in the corner down here. The BMG Record Club in the late 80s got the CD, never had the vinyl or the cassette or the 8-track. The CD came out in 1990, so I guess I must have got it sometime after that. But I do like the record. Some of it hasn't aged really well, but I listened to it today, and I do really enjoy it.
All right, Bob, I will say I like Big Yellow Taxi 07 better than Big Yellow Taxi 74. All right, Chris, and then Sue, and then pause.
I don't think I have too much to say really about this whole record, except maybe a couple of tracks, which I'll have a lot to say. But I think that I'm echoing what everyone else has said so far. Mark, you're absolutely right. The unplugged portion of this record is absolutely brilliant. Some of the best stuff she ever put down on tape, I think. It's really, really wonderful. I am not, a huge fan of the quote unquote jazzy arrangements. She was huge. You're right, Bob. She was absolutely huge. She was employing I am diva. I am going to be as big and as bright as the Eagles. And she did. She was. I mean, this record. I find something that is annoying. I think the production overall sounds pretty good still to my ears. I'm pretty impressed in production wise in terms of how it holds up. But what I don't like is the two tracks that are kind of ersatz inserted to almost impart the possibility that they might be live. The way they work a segue into them is really, I think, kind of cheesy. They just should have, you should have just called them studio tracks, or just somehow, given them their own, stage for what it was worth. But yeah, she was in full diva mode here. That's all I got for now.
All right, Sue.
So I was 16. I had just gotten my driver's license in 1974, and I basically went to every possible concert I could get to with piles of people in my car. And unfortunately, I was totally prog in those days. And I love Joni Mitchell, but for some reason, I missed this tour, and I could kick myself.
Damn.
Yeah, I missed it. I don't know why, but it was really.
It was Roosevelt Raceway too. I missed that show too.
Yeah, a good friend of mine went to Roosevelt Raceway, and she goes, "Sue, why weren't you there? You're such a big Joni fan." And I was like, "What the hell's wrong with me?" I was probably stoned. But yeah, I was like out of my mind in those days. So, but I love this album, and I understand the criticisms of some. I was listening to it today, and I find some of the songs kind of cheesy. Like it's interesting because the first two songs, it was You Turn Me On my radio, and let me just look here, Big Yellow Taxi. Come off really cheesy to me for some reason. But then Rainy Night House comes on, and I think that is a brilliant arrangement. I love that arrangement of Rainy Night House. The little tingling triangle, and it's just really gorgeous. And she sings, I think she sings so fantastic through the whole album. It's just, her voice, and she's really on with, when I'm really glad that a couple of people have talked about her acoustic playing during this album, because later on in life, when I started transcribing her songs, I went to this album a lot of times, especially for tracks like Cold Blue Steel and People's Parties, and what was the other one that's just so amazing?
Woman of Heart and Mind.
Huh? Yeah,
I love Woman
of Heart and Mind. Yeah. Her chord progression in Woman of Heart and Mind, you can really hear on this version, and you can't hear it as well on I think on For the Roses, although I'm listening really carefully to what she's doing. The regular person probably wouldn't do that, but it's just incredible. And I really don't like the Carrie version either, of because that was not done on dulcimer, so. But I like the album. I love Jericho and love Her Money. I mean, even though they aren't part of the live stuff, I mean, hearing those 2 new songs were really exciting to me. And Jericho is one of my favorite songs. So that's about all I got.
All right. We have Paz and then Jim.
Yeah, I like this album okay. I don't remember when I got the album. I don't think I ever had it on vinyl. So I got it after it came out on CD. And I have to say that it's not one of my favorites as far as live albums go. I much prefer Shadows and Light as a live album, but there are several songs that I really like the versions of on this album. The Rainy Night House version makes me think of Chuck E. up in the Boston area, because he did a very similar version of it that he sang in his beautiful voice. And I always love playing with him. It makes me sad to think he's gone. I was just up in Red Rocks, and I had Jahida Esperanza as my date on Friday night, and then I had the lovely and talented Mr. Les Irvin as my date on Saturday. And so backstage, I don't know if you can see this, you probably can't because of the light, but they had the listings of who had played at Red Rocks. And of course, Joni supposedly had played there September 1st and 2nd. But according to Mr. JoniMitchell.com, he said that was not correct, that she was only there one night. I don't know. He couldn't remember what happened. Do you know, Bob, what happened on that tour? Because it's listed there, but I don't think it's listed in the archives that way.
Well, she played there on the '83 tour. I didn't know she played there in '74.
Yeah, I saw her. So I took pictures of all of. So she was there in '74. She was there in '79, and she definitely was there in '83. That was the last time that she was there. So I was totally blown away by that venue. I mean, my God, to been able to see Joni Mitchell in that venue would have had to be just amazingly cosmic. You didn't, Jack. You dog, you. So yeah,
It was actually. Sorry. I was just. We can talk about it during the chat, but yeah, it was the first time I saw Joni Mitchell ever. 9th row center at Red Rocks, and there are no
stunning. That's 9th row. Our seats for the first night were like row 18, and they were great. I mean, they were fun. It was just amazing. So yeah, there's a couple on here that I really don't care for the versions at all, but overall, it's an okay album. It's not really one of my faves. When it ended up on the bottom of the barrel as far as the whole hierarchy, which I've never actually done, but this would be pretty low on the lineup for me. Thank you.
And for those who watched my Stevie Nicks videos, everyone knows that Stevie Nicks live at Red Rocks is my favorite live video at all, because right before she went into rehab, and her hair's like this big, and then she went to rehab and recut some of the takes, the close-ups. So her hair is totally different in some of the cuts. Then she starts speaking in tongues. Then the band plays and she misses her cue. It's my favorite. I just watched it on VHS along with my Shadows and Light VHS in 1996 all the time. All right, Jim, Jack, David.
Okay, thanks. So this is a completely different Joni Mitchell from the one who had closed sessions for Blue. Look how confident she was on this tour. So, and even more so on the other album we're going to discuss in a few minutes. I found tucked in my copy of Miles Vile's a post from Steve Dawson. You remember that name? He used to call himself the Tinker's Own, and Steve was kind of famous on the JMDL because he had, I don't know how many tickets, but he kept every ticket. And he could tell you how many concerts he had been to, when, and who was there, and the whole 9 yards.
He had a notebook filled with all the shows that he'd ever been to, and it's still expanding, of course.
Yeah. So on Wednesday, May 24th, in the year 2000, Steve wrote to the big list and said, when Miles of Ice was taped at Universal Amphitheater in '74, there were 2 mics hanging over the front of the audience, presumably to get the audience reaction. He says, I was sitting right under one. That's why you can hear me whoop at the beginning of Cold Blue Steel. So that's
when I was in the car, I heard that. Wow, that that person that does that?
Yeah, he's on the list. He's
a folkie too.
I heard that in the intro. I'm like, woo, that person's having a good time. That's so funny. All right.
Thank God he wasn't calling for Leonard Skinner or something.
I almost wish you could have him just pop in the podcast and do the wow, just so we could hear it live. Okay. You heard it here first, everybody. Okay, well, second, because the first time I heard it would have been on Miles of Ice. Jack, and then David.
Just real quick, I want to kind of reiterate what Mark said earlier. To me, I think this is a great introduction to Joni Mitchell. If someone comes to me and says, if I want to listen to Joni Mitchell for the first time, what album do you recommend? I think this is a really good alternative. Certainly not her greatest album, but I think it kind of touches on some of her various eras or whatever you want to call it. I think it's very accessible. So to me, for a newbie, I think this is a great way to introduce them. Anyway, that's all.
That scares me a little bit, Jay. Okay. This is the last time I should ever have a few drinks before a podcast. David, Miles of Ice.
All right, so I like the album. Okay, some of it I really really like. Others of it I think no. But anyway, we can get to that later. But anyway, so I saw this tour on. I'm looking at the Joni Mitchell site to see when it was, but it must have been August 9th in Pine Knob in Michigan, because she announced from the stage, hey, Richard Nixon resigned, which had happened like the day before. And everyone went, whoa, 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 whoa. And she said, you guys would applaud anything. It's like, okay, I don't know what we're supposed to do with that, but
oh my goodness.
And then I saw it again at Temple Music Festival outside Philadelphia in 3 weeks later, something like that. So anyway, that's my little Joni Mitchell, Richard Nixon story.
All right, Jim.
Well, I just want to say, if I remember my folklore correctly, this montage is from Pine Knob.
Oh, huh.
That look familiar?
That's correct, Jim. You are correct.
Those are my feet. Those are my toenails.
Great color for the toes.
I think Miles of Ice is the most brilliant name for a live album. I think that's a great album title.
Yeah.
Even better than Hissing of Summer Lawns?
Well, I guess that would... All right, the album cover, pretty cool. Does anyone have anything to say about the album cover before we go into the songs? Pretty cool, right? Cool drawing.
You definitely know you're getting a live record.
Yeah, it's good for a live album. So re-listening to the album, I just thought some of it just seemed like a little generic bar band sounding when some of the tracks, and that's why it would scare me a little bit if that's the first. Because if I heard this as my introduction to Joni Mitchell, I'd be like, oh no. Because I like that, like, kind of artsier, weirder stuff. And then, intimate, I guess maybe weird's the wrong word, but I love the intimacy of the early stuff I heard. And I think as we go into the track by track, for something different, since we're doing live albums, I think we should give our rating before we talk about it. And then go into each live version. We'll talk a little bit about each one. Jim, is your hand up from before? Or is that, did you have something else to add before I go into the songs? I just want to make sure.
Well, okay. I guess I was done, but I'll start in saying it's an 8.
An 8?
Yeah. Oh, Blue Steel live rocks.
No, that is true. All right.
I get the the complaint that it's sort of like smooth jazz.
So we're going to do the good old, as I call it, the Marcus scale, because Marcus from the Prince podcast began the thumbs up, sideways, or thumbs down. So Miles of Isles versions, You Turn Me On my radio. Thumbs up, sideways, or down. I'm by myself. All right. Does anyone have anything to say about it? Sue. Then Chris.
I like the little, I like the play back and forth with Tom Scott and Joni at the end of it, you know, and the song is okay, you know, but like I said before about the first two songs, the way I heard them, they were kind of cheesy in a little way, but that song, it's okay. You know, sometimes it's fun to play with people and stuff, but it's not one of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs. And but there was something about that vocalese at the end of it that I really, really loved. And so that's all I wanted to say.
See, I loved the album version. I love all the weird harmonies she puts on the album version.
Yeah.
And this one just seems so slick. I felt like I was at Bahama Breeze about to order a marg. All right, Chris, you're next.
I think I like this version a little bit, maybe even better than the country version on
For the Roses.
And it's really almost because this is kind of like what you would, the way it would be played in a smoky Texas lounge someplace. It's slower, it's sexier. She took it to I think started it in a really, really different place. And I really enjoyed it because at that point, it's almost like she realized it had earned itself already a place in what people's expectation was, and she could play with it a bit. So I really congratulated her, for taking it there. I thought that it was her play though, Sue, with the guitar at the end, isn't it? Isn't she trading licks with the guitar toward the end of the song vocally? Which I think.
Yeah, it might be. To tell you the truth, I've been so busy this week. I only listened to a little bit of each album.
But I find that little bit of arrangement is brilliant. Sometimes you don't know who is who. You don't know who's playing the note. Is it the guitar? Is it her? And I find that extraordinarily great. This is actually one of the top tracks on the record for me.
For some reason, when I listen to it today, I love everything Joni Mitchell up through both sides now in 2000, to be honest with you. But I just felt like for some reason, her vibrato was really jumping out at me on this live album, more so than on the studio albums. Did anyone else notice that? Mm-hmm. And there was a couple times I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Jim, and then Mark.
I really have to learn to lower my hand here.
Oh,
all right. I'm done.
I just love calling on you. I can't help myself. Okay, Mark Scott, you're up, friend.
Well, I agree with Chris. I really love this version of the song, and I think I like it better than the For the Roses version too. And that scatting that she's doing with Robin Ford was on this tour, and not Larry Carlton. Is just wonderful. It's just mind blowing, I think. And I don't know, this record, I used to listen to it with, in particular, a couple of friends of mine that were from my hometown. And we would just have a candle burning in the room, and we'd all be a little bit stoned and maybe a lot stoned, I don't know. And they loved it as much as I did. So, like I said, it has a real special place in my heart. And the way it begins is just, I love it.
What was interesting is I got this album before I found For the Roses, just like I got Shadows of Light before I found Hejira. So I was kind of like not loving the For the Roses songs till I heard the album version, because this was my first impression of You Turn Me On my radio. So it's interesting. There's no right or wrong opinion, just how music sits differently with different people. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I remember how that felt with Shine. Okay, pause.
Yeah, I like this version okay, but I still like the original version, Mo Betta's, and I do love Robin Ford. God, awesome player, but yeah, still for the Roses as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on You Turn Me On? All right. Time for the scale. Big Yellow Taxi, Miles of Isles version. We got some thumbs up, some sideways, some down. This one, I just had a rough time listening to this one. I felt like I was at that Texas bar that Chris was talking about earlier, and they didn't want me there. They didn't want my kind at that bar. I like the acoustic version of Big Yellow Taxi from Ladies of the Canyon with the Saskatoons doing the backups. I love when any artist experiments with different arrangements of songs. I think it's just a matter of personal taste whether they work for you or they didn't. This one didn't quite work for me. Bob, David, take it away.
Yeah, I mean it's a rock and roll song, so to be able to play it with a full band on stage and the band's behind you and you're rocking it out, it adds a lot to the song. You know, I love all the versions of this song. I love the Shine version. I love the Ladies of the Canyon version. I love the 500 covers, and this version is great. You know, I think she sincerely sounds like she's having a good time, and the band is pretty tight. So yeah, it's cool.
You know what's interesting is when I heard some of these songs with the band, I felt like they kind of were sisters to other songs. So I kind of felt like this is what would happen if Big Yellow Taxi ran into Raised on Robbery in an alleyway somewhere. All right, we have David and Chris.
Yeah, I just like the rocking out too. I think it really it made me like the song more than I had before. Also, can someone tell me about the extra verse that I think Bob Dylan wrote, and was it ever recorded anywhere else? Did she ever perform it anywhere else? That's a great verse. I love it. I love it.
Bob Dylan covered Big Yellow Taxi on his self-portrait album. And he added a verse to it. So she's singing Bob Dylan's verse.
Okay, did she ever do it anywhere else?
Oh yeah, she adds that verse a lot.
Painting with words and music.
She imitated Dylan in one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, on the '98 tour, and she didn't add a verse as much as she just changed the line as Dylan did to pushed around my house, pushed around my land. He didn't say.
But then she also has, took away my.
Big Yellow Taxi, took away my old man. So he didn't add a verse. He just changed the last line of the last bit of the song.
Oh.
And let's talk for a moment. Do we really need he pushed the screen door again? He took away my land again. Like, I didn't need the again. Didn't need it.
It's fabulous because they keep taking away her old man. Her old man keeps leaving and leaving and leaving, and that screen door keeps slamming and slamming and slamming again and again and again.
I don't know what's worse.
A lot of good guys went through that door.
Just ask Rolling Stone, right? Oh, I don't know what's worse, the Bob Dylan verse or the again and again and again. Okay, Big Yellow Taxi. I need to learn how to have more fun, don't I? I think that's the problem. I just don't know how to have fun. Okay. Anyone else have any? Oh, we have Chris and then Paz.
Yeah, well, she probably did as much of Dylan's verse as she could without paying him, I'm sure. But this version for me it's Vegas. It's as close to Joni ever came to doing Vegas. It's hollow. I don't think she was having fun even doing it. I just think she was making it loud and big and people expected it, and she was just throwing it out to them, Get on to the next one.
Chris, I just feel like you're in trouble when you're missing the Amy Grant version, you know what I mean? All right. Do we have anyone else? Big Yellow Taxi, Miles of Isles.
Yeah. I like it. I like it fine. What Bob said, although I don't like all the covers of it, but I do enjoy this version a lot. And it makes me think of my son Julian when he was really little. he could sing before he could talk, and he loved this song. And he would do the shoo bop 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 bop. So we rehearsed it for a birthday party, and he was doing the shoo bop 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 bop. And I think he was about two. It was either when he was 2 or 3 years old. I can't remember what. But when we started singing the song, instead of coming in on the chorus like he was supposed to, he started singing the song. And he brought the house down. I had grown women crying and saying, "How do you get him to do that?" And so, yeah, I love this record no matter what. And it's a fun version. Good players.
All right. Going once, going twice. Big Yellow Taxi, 74. I got to give one more shout out of love to the 2007 version. Those little accordions, it's so cute. Y'all crazy for putting that down. Okay. Rainy Night House, Miles of Isles version. Sue loves it. I was going to give it a sideways, but Sue, I got to give it a thumbs up. If you love it that much, I'm going to give it the thumbs up. Is everyone thumbs up? Oh, Chris.
We know Chris is a double thumbs down.
Okay, I'm going to go to sideways then. You know what? I wish Joni would have had backup singers because I miss all her harmonies because the full band is there, but I love her overdubbed harmonies on the album versions and I miss them in these live versions. I wish she had, that would have, I think I would have liked the album more. Okay. So Chris, I'm not going to you first because I don't love this album. I'm going to you first because your hand is in my upper left.
Oh boy. Well,
Sue's right after you though. She's going to come save the day.
You know what? You're absolutely right because I'm going to say so much negative stuff about this that I'm hoping that somebody is going to save the day for it. Yeah, after Big Yellow Taxi Vegas version, this probably sealed the deal to have Kate McGarrigle ban Joni Mitchell from the turntables in young Rufus Wainwright's house because this was a hot mess. This was awful. This song did not need this fake faux jazz vocal. I don't know who in the world. Oh my, I'm telling you, I climb the walls every time I hear it. I can't embrace it. I've tried. I have so tried, but I cannot embrace it. I mean, from a production standpoint, it sounds great. It's really interesting. And Sue mentioned the percussion. I mean, it's got a real nighttime feeling to it, you know. But there's just no heart in it. I can't find the heart. I find, you know, it's like, you know, Joni goes later on, she talks about how for some people sex becomes really mechanical and otherwise just devoid of a real attachment, a feeling, a syncope. And this, for me, this does it. This is just a chirp up there singing songs that she's trying to basically paint in a different light. I'm sorry. I don't find that this, when I think about, I would love to hear what Leonard Cohen thought about this version. I mean, because if he had any knowledge that the song was about him, he would probably say, what? I don't know. I just find it really, really detached. And I'm sorry she put it on the record because it really turned me off.
It turned you off your radio. Okay. I have two things to say before we move on. Number one, we're not going to talk about Shadows and Light tonight, are we? We have too much to say about Miles of Isles. I can feel it already.
I knew that was the case, yeah.
Let's just call it from the beginning. Because Miles of Isles, or Shadows and Light, we can't rush through that one. I love that album. So looks like we're meeting. We have 2 more episodes instead of just 1. Okay.
I'd love for Dave to be in on that one because he's, you know, such a Pat Metheny guy. So.
Yeah. So Dave and Robin will be happy to hear that. Second of all, Chris, I feel like after you talking about this song, I have a little bit of a safe space to say something. But her vibrato when she does the upstairs choir, that's where I'm like, ooh, it's like, I'm like, oh girl, let me go back to the Lady of the Canyon for this song. Okay, now for the other side of the coin, Sue, then Jim, then Paz. Oh, you're on mute, friend.
I mean, I just find it so interesting because it's almost like we're talking about two different songs, Chris. I mean, I think this is a really sexy song. I think she sings it really sexy, and you know, it's very emotionally done. And you know, I feel like the original song, of course, is like that too. But when she's up there with the jazz, like the chirpy thing you said, she's she's a jazz singer, you know, and it sounds really great. I mean, it's a beautiful song, and I don't know, man. I just get into it and feel that, you know, kind of sultriness of it, you know, and I really love it. I mean,
I have a question. I have a question though for you, Sue.
Yeah,
Do you think the sex was good?
absolutely.
No.
Man.
Between Joni and
Leonard Cohen.
John Garen?
Scott.
yeah, was it good?
Well, I don't know, but all I'm saying is that the song makes me feel like it was really good.
Because the version on Ladies of the Canyon, I don't think it was.
Oh, with Cohen?
I think they were both standing outside themselves.
Well, I mean, they were all intellectual back then. I mean, this song is not like that. The one on Miles of Isles is definitely sexy. I mean, it's you know, I mean, if you're sitting, you know, on a bed with a guy, you know, having this back and forth about what's his mother doing in Florida and stuff, you know, it's like, but you know, there's like an opening there where you say, okay, they moved on from that. That was breaking the ice. Now they're gonna, you know, have a good night.
I don't believe this conversation.
Well, I mean, he's the one who brought it up.
Well, I think it's important because, you know, where that song came from originally and where she's brought it now, it disconnected for me. That's why I have the problem with it. I'm sorry, Sue. I didn't mean to.
Well, you know,
take your
you know,
thunder.
I mean, everybody has their own tastes as far as what it moves them. So, you know, I mean, I have no problem with you having a completely different opinion from me. But when I listen to this song, I think it's really sexy and I groove to it. And
I feel like the sex of Ladies of the Canyon was bad sex. I feel like the Vegas sex of the Miles of Isles version, someone was getting paid. There was a cash transaction.
Vegas.
Well, I think that the whole song is about like this encounter, you know, and you know, I don't really like to, you know, okay, Leonard Cohen, what that doesn't thrill me too much. It doesn't matter who it is. I always bring it to who, you know, the encounters that I've had and those emotions that come out when I'm listening to the songs, you know, and you know, I mean, I've had, you know, I mean, and it just makes me feel, you know, like it's a very sexy song and it shows those emotions, you know, and she brings it out with her voice, you know. I mean, the whole choir thing, obviously, I mean, I guess she didn't hit the note for people in this one, but you know, the whole thing on Ladies of the Canyon, when she starts hitting those high notes, like what does that evoke at a certain point in the night?
Oh yeah. I can't answer that because it's been so long. I can't remember.
I mean, you know, I mean, I think it's pretty sexy.
The crazy cries of love.
Yeah, there you go.
How is Miles of Isles going to be one of our best damn discussions? Because this is a damn good discussion so far. Not what I was expecting tonight, but I'm loving every second. Sue, anything else?
Sue, I'd like to hear Sue talk about sex for another hour or so.
I know. Why did my Patreon subscribers double? I don't know. Okay. Rainy Night House, we have Bob, we have Paz, and then we have Jack.
All right. Well, one note interesting in modern times, Max Bennett's bass work on this track, which is phenomenal, has been lifted by many rap singers. That's bass riff, the opening bass riff, if you hear it, has been lifted and used in several different rap tracks. And of course, it totally works. It sets a really good beat. If you just listen to the bass in this record on this song, it's really, really good bass. And I wish Dave was here to talk about it in specific because he interviewed Max Bennett. He's friends with Max Bennett, and he can talk more to what's going on here. But on this track particularly, Max Bennett's bass is really, really good. When I go to see a live concert, I want to see the band play around with their catalog. The worst concert I ever saw, and I've said this 1,000 times, was the Eagles' Hotel California tour, because all they did was play every song note for note, like the record, no derivation, except for Joe Walsh's solo on Rocky Mountain Way. And when they did an encore of James Dean, there was 3 guitars, they were jamming on that. Other than that, the solos were exactly the same. The vocals were exactly the same. The band's exactly the same. I'm like, shit, I should have stayed home and played the record. It was the exact same thing. So I give kudos to Joni and the band for taking this song and many of the songs on this record. And, they're not Warhorse songs. They hadn't been around for 10, 12, 20 years. These were, 3, 4, 5-year-old songs, but they take the song, turn it on its ear. Maybe it works for some, doesn't work for Chris, and I totally respect that. But, but they reinvent it. Joni was so fearless with her vocal. She goes up to to notes that that only dogs can hear. I like it a lot. I like Rainy Night House on this one. I like the song. It's a really, really great melody. So that's what I got to say about that.
All right, Paz.
Woof, woof, woof. Wouldn't it be sad? Wouldn't it be sad if they asked me to perform and I didn't have my triangle? So I love this version. I agree with a lot of what Sue said, and Chris, I couldn't disagree with you more, baby. Love you, but nah. The other thing that I have to say, and this, I got in trouble on the original Joni Mitchell discussion list when it was, in digest form, and it was on smo.org, and we get people talking about what they think Joni Mitchell meant, by her, what she was saying. And it never really interested me to know exactly what other people think she thought. If she wants to tell me about it, great. But, the only way I can relate to it is how it makes me feel, how I relate to it myself. And so that's why, that it's kind of, I got, I definitely get the sexy thing in this version, and how that makes Sue feel in that way. And the other version, it sounded more like Leonard. It sounded, I felt like he was in the room in that version. So maybe she was let loose with the band. So I dig it. Thank you very much.
All right, Jack.
I was going to bring up the bass line. Man, it is great. I totally agree, Bob, that the bass line makes a song, I think. I love this version. I like it better than the studio version by a lot. I think it's cool. One thing I want to add, not really about the song, but you were talking about these discussions. One of the things that made me nervous about these is, would something that someone said alter my perception? Like after the Travelogue one, I was almost afraid to listen to Travelogue again. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's been an interesting, it's cool that we disagree and to hear the different people's insights. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd feel like nothing swayed my opinions. Like I've enjoyed hearing everyone's opinions, but nothing was ruined for me. A few times I did like things more. I would say I probably never liked anything less, thankfully. Although, like I said, every time I listen to Hannah now, I'm gonna look around and see who's looking at me. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say about Rainy Night House? Okay, moving on. Woodstock, the Miles of Isles version. We had the weird, at this point, this will be the second version from Joni Mitchell of Woodstock. Of course, we had the hit song by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. But this is Joni's second version. She does a few more throughout her career, which we talked about on Travelogue. But what do you all think of the Miles of Isles version of Woodstock? Thumbs up, sideways, or down? Boy, I'm the only one that doesn't like this album, aren't I? Okay. I have nothing to say, so if anyone would like to start this one up. Jack, is your hand still up from last? Nope. Okay. Does anyone have anything to say about Woodstock? Bob?
Yeah, so if you mention Crosby, Stills, and Nash, you also have to mention Matthew's Southern Comfort version, which was the UK version across the pond. It was a huge hit. And it inspired many covers of that arrangement. If you don't know the Matthew Southern Comfort arrangement, I would strongly suggest you go on YouTube and type in Matthew Southern Comfort Woodstock. Listen to it. It's very different. And like I say, it inspired as many covers, maybe even more than CSNY did with theirs. And this song, moving forward, especially on Shadows and Light, my favorite Woodstock version.
Mine too.
I like this one. It's got a nice little bit of funk to it. Da-na-na, da-na-na. It was for its time. It was, really great sound. So, and I think it's nice. And I think, this song, especially the whole "we've got to get ourselves back to the garden" theme, will resonate from now till eternity. We'll never get ourselves back to the garden. Now we're fighting for women's rights again. I don't want to get on a political podium, but holy shit.
At least not by choice, right, Bob? If we go back to the garden, it's going to be not by choice.
Well, yeah, back to the Garden of Rotten Tomatoes. But no, this is a classic song for all time. Of course, it still gets done time and time again because it is, like many of her songs, so timeless. So I enjoy this version. I enjoy all the versions. I don't like all the covers, of course, especially the ones that are just derivative. But again, for her to reinvent the song in a live setting, and everyone knows this song because of the huge airplay it got, not from other artists. So for her to go on stage, reinvent it with this great band, it was really cool. Done.
Sue.
I just want to say quickly that I prefer Woodstock slow, and I'm okay with this version. I like it, but my favorites are the Ladies of the Canyon and the Shadows and Lights because it's a little bit more heavy in the sense that the message comes across. I don't know. That's just me.
I felt like the arrangement on this reminded me of like a plaid sofa. Like keep it in the 70s. Keep it in the 70s. Okay. Anybody else? Woodstock 74? Chris. Uh-oh.
No, it's fine. It's, I think that she chose to keep it up tempo because she realized she was following, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, their hit, and she wanted people to recognize it and also remind people, hey, I wrote this, this is my song. I'm gonna give a call out so that we do not forget my favorite version anyway, which is the one on Travelogue.
I'd say this is my least favorite of the Woodstock versions. And Bob, I couldn't agree with you more. I love the Matthews Southern Comfort version. I might have even heard that before I heard her version. An amazing song. Of course, I love the Crosby, Stills, and Nash version. And I have heard a lot of great versions. There's a lot of live versions that she had. Was it Isle of Wight? Did she do it at Isle of Wight? One of those live things. I really like the way that she played it too on the piano. But this one, it's okay. I love Robin Ford's playing on it. It doesn't do it for me this way. I'm like Sue. I like it slower.
But no yodeling at the end.
No yodeling.
Bag the yodeling. That totally turned me off.
Oh, see, I was there for the yodel. I liked it.
Yeah. Ooh, doggy needs to be fed.
Oh, that's where she got the inspiration for Dog Eat Dog. Okay, so anyway.
The Hui does.
See, I'll take the Woodstock Lays of the Canyon yodel over the Miles of Isles Rainy Night House high note vibrato. All right. This is I feel like our listeners are going to be entertained by this discussion. We're being entertaining tonight. We're moving over to side 2 of the record. And Sue, would you like to perform Cactus Tree now? All right, let me pause for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our Miles of Isles album discussion, we have a version of Cactus Tree from our lovely friend Sue Tierney.
Thank you. There's a man who's been out sailing in a decade full of dreams, and he takes her to his schooner and he treats her like a queen, bearing beads from California with their amber stones and green. He has called her from the harbor, he has kissed her with his freedom. Now he calls her off to starboard in the breaking and the breathing of the water weeds. And she's so busy being free. There's a man who climbs a mountain and he's calling out her name. He hopes her heart can hear 3,000 miles. He calls again. He can think her there beside him. He can miss her just the same. He has missed her in the forest where he showed her all of the flowers, and the branches sang the chorus as he climbed the scaly towers of their forest trees. And she was somewhere being free. There's a man who writes her letters, he's waiting for reply. He asks her of her travels since the day they said goodbye. He writes, wish you were beside me. You can make it if we tried. He has seen her in the office with her name on all of his papers. Through the sharing of the profits, he will find it hard to shake her from his memory. And she's so busy being free. There's a lady in the city and she thinks she loves them all. There's the one who's thinking of her, there's that one who sometimes calls, there's the one who writes his letters with his fact and figure scrawl. She will love them when she sees them. Oh, wait a minute. She has brought them to her senses. They will. She has laughed inside of her laughter. She rallies her defenses, for she fears a
One will ask her for eternity, for eternity. And she's so busy being free. There's a man who sends her medals. He is bleeding from the war. There's a jouster and a jester and a man who owns a store. There's a drummer and a dreamer, and you know there could be more. She will love them when she sees them. They will lose her if they follow, and she only means to please them, and her heart is full and hollow, like a cactus tree. And she's so busy being free, like a cactus tree. Being free.
All right. There's a lot of words to that damn song.
Yeah, I know.
That damn Joni Mitchell.
I love you, and you ended with the Greenwich Village up strum.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, that was great.
All right. And speaking of great, I did love Joni's version on Miles of Isles of this song. I thought it was an awesome rendition. So we have David and then Jack. We have Mark. I feel like I saw Bob make a motion. So we're starting with David.
Yeah, okay. I know we're not supposed to discuss the songs, but this is just one of her best songs. This is such a fabulous, beautiful, wonderful, wonderful song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And I also love when she says, "There's a drummer," and I just know that Garen's right back there. And so I love this version. I love this version. It's a beautiful song. Also, another thing I just want to say about the album as a whole. I was amazed when someone just said, these songs are maybe 5 years old at the time.
Right.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it, because I think of so much of these songs as her early songs, the ones from 3 years before this performance as the early songs. But I love the early songs. And on Travelogue too, to be reminded of how beautiful, beautiful, beautiful those songs from Song to a Seagull and Clouds, just fabulous. Okay, bye.
Before we move on, we forgot to do the thumbs up for this one. So anybody, everybody? All right, we have the Joni Mitchell Phonogenics 101 unanimous vote. Cactus Tree, Miles of Isles, thumbs up. Okay, we have Jack, Mark, then Bob.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful version. Sue, really beautiful version. It sounded great. One thing I want to say about this song, I have a friend who's got very similar musical taste to me, but he could never get into Joni Mitchell. And, I talked his ear off about Joni, and he still just couldn't get it. And after years of this, actually probably about 6 months ago, he calls me on the phone and he says, "I just heard this version of a live version of a song called Cactus Tree by Joni Mitchell, and it blew my mind." And since that time, he's like gotten it. So anyway, this version of Cactus Tree got us a convert.
I love that. All right, Mark.
This was the start of the second side of the 2 vinyl LPs when it was originally released. And for me, this side is utter perfection. Every song is just gorgeous. and I don't want to go into all the other songs before we get into it. And I don't know if I'm having a whole lot to say about it, but this version of Cactus Tree, and Sue, when I get to those last two verses, if I'm singing this to myself, I often get it confused. I start to sing "She will love them when she sees them" instead of the other one. But anyway, that's all I'll say.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, it is a lot of words, and Sue totally nailed it. Of course, I have lust for Sue. She knows that, and the whole world knows that. I've got to love Jones, but but yeah, I mean this song on this part of the record, she's dismissed the band. They played the opening set by themselves. She comes out. They did a little band set, 3 or 4 or 5 songs. Now the band goes off stage, and she does like 7 songs in a row, solo, which is how she played since the mid 60s, moving forward up till now. She was always solo. She didn't have a band on stage. So she's obviously very, very comfortable. She's in her element. Give her a dulcimer, give her a piano, give her a guitar. She's confident. She's playing in stadiums, which is brand new. She's not playing in small little places. She's in great big stadiums, but she owns the stadium. She's totally present. And this is the first song of her solo set that, as Mark said, is it'll just take you, it'll transport you. It's wonderful.
One thing that I wanted to mention too, and Max Bennett actually said this in an interview that I think Dave Blackburn conducted with him. He said he went out into the audience during one of these shows, and you could hear a pin drop while she was performing. And you can hear it on the record. The audience does not make a sound until the last note fades away. They are listening to her.
Yeah.
And you don't see that anymore.
No.
At a rock concert or a pop music concert. People don't do that. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and she was accustomed to that. Even in 98, when I saw her open for Dylan, there were so many Dylan fans that were moving around and
it was horrible at the Gorge.
And being so rude. And she's used to being paid attention to.
Right.
It's like, shit, I'm Joni Mitchell, y'all. Shut up and listen to me. And so when they don't, she expects that intimacy even in a stadium. And rightfully so. So, she got it in 74, not so much in 98.
Yeah.
As we talk about this album, I must admit I am warming up to it throughout the discussion. And I think Joni Mitchell is probably fun for her, for some of the songs to reinvent them, and then to also go back to some of the classic arrangements for one. So I think that's a brilliant thing for her to do as a performer, to kind of challenge herself with some of the songs. And I think with the live versions, not everything is supposed to work all the time. I mean, that's the fun of having a live concert. She wasn't making an album here when she came up with these arrangements. She just happened to record them and release them, but they were meant for the live stage, not a studio album. So I think I need to allow her to have a little bit of fun with them, more than maybe I have. So, okay, pause.
I have a question for Bob. The bootleg that you're talking about, did it include all of Joni's stuff as well?
I think it's a 2 CD bootleg. It's got like 4 or 5 tracks from the LA Express, maybe 2 or 3,
and then the rest of her.
Then the rest of Joni's show, which is pretty much identical. She didn't change the set list a lot.
Very sonically, and do you think that there was any overdubs done on, after the fact and post?
Well, of course, for Love or Money or Jericho were studio tracks, which they added some audience noise to. She didn't perform those songs on this tour.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This. I agree with everybody. This. This for me, but her playing solo. It's quite unique. And I don't know if anybody has seen Damien Rice. I did a concert with him at the Civic Theater when I was there, and that was, his audience is incredible. They sit there and hang on every word that he sings, and they're very, very quiet and listen. And so yeah, there's not too many people that that can be quiet and listen to beautiful music like this, and especially in an environment like an amphitheater or whatever like that. But beautiful work.
And I just got triggered in my own music. I've always wanted that kind of Damien Rice audience that just really listens to you, and it never happens. So I'm like, oh fuck, I'll just make a dance album. So that's why I always go back to the pop music. So I think I need to be fearless and just make the acoustic album, and if 4 people listen, who gives a shit? Okay, back to Joni Mitchell. Paz, you inspired me though to just not. It's not always about the applause. It's about reaching people. Okay, anybody else? Cactus Tree. One thing that annoyed me about this album is I hate she'll do one line, then they cue in the audience like clapping, then they fade them out really fast by the second line. I'm like, well, they really stopped clapping really fast. Chris, you have something to say?
Just casually noting that I don't think she ever really played with this song in terms of reinventing it or rearranging it or anything. She kept always, every time that I'm aware of that she performed it, the solo guitar with the hammering, picking, it was always, she knew she nailed it the first time and she wasn't going to do better somehow. And I'm okay with that.
Were these songs?
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, I didn't raise my hand, but I was going to say, and the covers of Cactus Tree are all very allegiant to her version. There's no reinterpretations of the song that are reinvented. Because Joni nailed it right out of the get-go.
Yeah.
And she didn't change it. Nobody changed it. It's an amazing song.
It is an amazing song. Amazing song. Were these songs done in the same key that she did them on the original albums, or did she lower some of the keys? Does anybody know?
That's a good question. I've
feel
never
like-
really checked to see. I mean, I
feel
know
like
later on some of the songs she did lower.
She might have just moved
Voice
the
started to
capo.
low. Huh?
She could have just moved the capo.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But I just wanted to say that if you're a fan of the guitar and piano database, this song is transcribed by the one and only Les Irvin. It's the only tab he has at JoniMitchell.com, and he did a fabulous job of it.
I did not know that.
Shout out to Les.
Yep.
What?
Yes.
And Sue, give yourself a little promotion here. Talk about your website since we're on the topic. You've done so much work throughout the years.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been quite an amazing thing. I mean, I started transcribing Joni's songs in 1994 or 5, right after I heard Turbulent Indigo. My first tab that I did was Borderline.
Wow.
So I was just because somebody had sent me a list of, I was on the JMDL by then. I think it started in 95, right? And there was a guy named James Leahy who had it was like the tabula rasa, the key to Joni's tunings. He had all the songs listed and grouped them in tunings. And I was just blown away. So then I started, with that list, I was able to start transcribing. And then I met Howard online. And Howard had done a whole site on this thing they called it Olga. It was the online guitar archive. And there were all these people transcribing Zeppelin songs and Dylan and everything. And he did all the Joni. He did Joni and Steely Dan songs.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I got People's Parties from him. And I started collecting them all. And in those days, Wally did the Joni Mitchell website. And he wanted no part of the guitars. He thought it was a horrible copyright violation.
Oh.
And he would not have it on his site. It would piss off Joni too badly. So Les put it up on the JMDL site where we had the Joni Mitchell discussion list stuff, And it was there for a couple of years until 2000, when unfortunately Wally passed away and the website went to Les. And then, of course, he changed the whole thing. He did this cold fusion database, and it's just a miraculous, amazing.
It actually went to Wally's partner for just a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Jim
true.
Johansson. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to Jim too.
It's so interesting because I didn't know any of y'all, but I was lurking on the sidelines. Like I saw the website through all these transitions through Wally's original. Like I was there reading all the stuff. So
really cool. And then the big deal that happened after we went on to JoniMitchell.com was we met Dave Blackburn, and he started adding the piano transcriptions, which were incredibly amazing. I mean, I have a tab of A Case of You from a girl for Dulcimer, and I went on the site and I was like, holy shit, we don't have a Dulcimer, transcription of A Case of You. We have a guitar version that Howard did, so I have to just double check it, and then we'll put that up for her.
Yeah.
So
get those Dulcimer songs on there.
Yeah.
Have you communicated any more with the young man that we met in Vegas that sat with us?
I have talked to him a couple times. He's on my Instagram feed, and every once in a while we'll chat.
Is he learning anything?
He goes to the site all the time, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, good. Cool.
But
all right.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've been promoted.
Oh. Well, Stu, thanks very much for
at the gala. So
you froze up, Paz. Go back.
I did?
Yeah.
For a second.
Maybe I had a brain freeze, maybe. I was saying I gush about Sue all the time to everybody that'll listen to me, but
Wendy and Lisa.
Thanks to her, I was bragging to Wendy and Lisa that my date was one of the ladies that does the transcriptions on JoniMitchell.com.
But they had special access to Bernstein stuff.
Yeah, when Wendy said, she'd been dealing directly with Bernstein, I was excuse the fuck out of me.
All right, friends. Well, Cactus Tree, we can all agree on Miles of Isles, amazing. Moving on to song 2 from side 2, Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. Thumbs up, sideways, or down. Now, I will say I did like the For the Roses version better, because I heard this one first and then I heard the album version, but this one is a really good live version. And this is the one with the woo, right? Your buddy yelling in the beginning of it. All right. I don't have much to say about this. I just thought it was a great version. Anyone have anything to say? Paz and David, are your hands up from before or new?
I'll talk.
Okay.
We're doing Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. The part where her voice goes into the saxophone, I was always really disappointed with that in the recording, because live it was stunning. It was stunning when they did that live, and on the record there's a weird break in it that it just doesn't sound very good. It sounds sort of hokey on the record, but it was fabulous live. That's all I have to say about this, and I think it's a great version.
All right, Bob, was your hand up? Then you took it down.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was just going to say that on this little solo, if you will call it a solo set of this record, she doesn't really play with these songs much. She pretty much throws them straight up from the albums, and I think that's a pretty good call, given what she wants to accomplish on this tour. Let the band come in and play with stuff and in her solo stuff. Cold Blue Steel is just another amazing song.
Yeah.
And this is a great version of it. Great addition to this concert.
All right. Anyone else have anything to say about this one before we move on? Chris.
I was actually going to say exactly the opposite of what David said, because having not heard it live, it worked completely for me. I mean, so to hear that it was even more magical live really thrills me. But I think it worked very well. I will give Joni props here though too. This is a fairly really deep and dark track for her to do on her stadium tour. I mean, where this is a night of fun and frolic. This is a pretty dark song. I mean, James Taylor can't even listen to it to this day. I mean, and she's delivering a devastating acoustic version of it to this audience, who probably was surprised that there was an unplugged set even to be had during this show, given how forthright the band started the night with her. But I think it's great. It's a great track. I'm really glad it's here.
All right, Mark and then Bob.
Yeah, I totally agree with David on this one. That come with me, I know the way. She said it's down, 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 and just sort of fades out. It's just gives me chills. It's a I won't say much more about it. This version of this song, the song, as everybody else has said, is very, very powerful. It kind of reminds me of the story out of Ricky Lee Jones' biography of when she appeared on Saturday Night Live. They wanted her to do Chuck E. and Love and another upbeat song, and she wanted to do Coolsville, and she insisted she was going to do Coolsville. And for a while, it was questionable as to whether she was going to get to do it or if she was going to be on the show at all, but she did. And so Joni ended up doing what Joni wanted to do, which is what Joni does. That's all.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, so Mark, to your comment, that was Danny's all-star joint they wanted her to do. And she says, okay. And then she did Coolsville, and she was forever banned from Saturday Night Live, just like Elvis Costello was forever banned for breaking into radio when he wasn't supposed to do it. He looked back at his band, called an audio, and they busted into radio. So Elvis Costello was forever banned from Saturday Night Live. It's like 8 artists that were banned anyway. That's neither here nor there. My point is that one of my original comments about this record was that Joni Mitchell, even in '74, when she's a huge megastar, magazine covers, selling tons and tons of records, she was going to do this concert on her own terms, which isn't necessarily, I'm going to do all your favorite songs. We're going to have fun and clap your hands and all the cliches. This is a Joni Mitchell tour where she says, okay, I'm going to go dark. I may hold up a mirror and let you see yourself in the darkness that you have inside you. And of course, she would follow Court and Spark with Hissing of Summer Lawns. So it's like, okay, just when you think I'm your pop star, I'm going to make a hard left. And if you're not with me, okay, that's fine. You're going. But, one of the things I admire about Joni Mitchell is she's playing by her own rules. And the inclusion of this song is part of that, these are my rules by God, and this is how we're going to do it. It's not all, feel good.
All right. Anyone else? Cold Blue Steel. Moving on. Next on this solo acoustic side of the album, we have Woman of Heart and Mind. Thumbs up from me. Anybody else? I feel like I love in this live version how she just tears into the fuck your strangers. Like you could tell she was like giving that little extra emphasis there or some. And I feel like, that's still a bad word in 2022. Not as bad as 74, but I feel like that was kind of daring for her to put that line in there and then keep it in the live version. If it was now, that would have caused the album to have a parental advisory. Okay.
It wasn't getting played on the air.
Yeah. All right. Paz, do you want to start things off?
Yeah, sure. This is one of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs of all time. It's just such a gorgeous piece of work, and her guitar playing and it's a really hard song to play. I've tried to learn it. I'd like to have my alter ego, my lesbian side, do this, but it's just be really hard for a masculine man to wrap your lips around these lyrics. But it is just so painfully gorgeous. I remember the first time I got together with other people from the Joni list was at Ashara Stansfield's house in Topsfield, Massachusetts. And there was a woman from Michigan by the name of Terry Matlin, and she did a cover of it that afternoon in the yard. And I just was driven to tears. I was sobbing, just uncontrollably, because she just covered it so beautifully. And it was, here I was in a person's house that I didn't have a clue who she was, other than seeing words on a page, talking on this thing called the list. And it was so odd, but that whole thing coming together with people that I had so much in common with through Joni Mitchell, and then realize, oh, you know, circle, and somebody would do uh, a Black Sabbath song, or Smurfy would sing "Blue" as Ethel Merman. So, you know, these are the images that, for me, that this music really evokes and brings, you know, and puts in my face, because the JMDL and JoniMitchell.com have become, you know, such a big part of my life. And you know, I gush about y'all all the time with friends. When I was in Red Rocks this weekend, I told all these women about, you know, Joni's website, and I said, it's really, you know, she really has nothing to do with it, other than, you know, she was the inspiration for it. And there's this guy named Mr. JoniMitchell.com, Les Irvin, that is responsible for it, and they're all blown away when they see the depth of research and stuff that's gone into other people collaborating, like Bob and Sue and everybody. So,
And it looks so damn good too.
It's an amazing site.
So yeah, love this tune.
All right, I can't. You can't help what your mind thinks of, and you guys might all just leave this podcast after I say what I'm about to say. But when Paz was talking, I was trying to think of what Paz's lesbian folk singer name would be. I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys.
Uh-oh.
It's actually Joni Michael. My gay
That's
friend,
wrong. That's just wrong.
My wife used to call me Christina.
Okay.
That was my lesbian name.
All right. Back to the podcast. Sue, your hand is up.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that this song is so beautifully constructed, and because of the live version, you can actually hear, you know, how she moves her hand across the fretboard to create this little, you know, it's almost like a band behind her singing. You know, it's just so incredible. I mean, I find the structure of this song like so gorgeous, and her syncopation with it too is really beautiful. You know, the hammer on and all this, and it's just breath. You know, it's just really beautiful song. And you know, the live version for me is really intimate. You know, I mean, I just find that listening to her play live, even as early, I mean, when the archives came out, even, you know, this whole idea of thinking about how she structures her songs and how it was basically for her to be able to sing what's in her head in a more constructed, like a little symphony on a 6-string guitar, you know, or even earlier, a baritone ukulele or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, she's like the greatest songwriter who ever lived, as far as I'm concerned. It's just the music, the lyrics, the intent of the song. I mean, this song is played so gently, but is pretty, you know, in your face, you know, or in the guy's face, I guess. But it's like, you know, it's the truth. You know, and I find that that's what thrills me about her. She can stand up there with her 6-string guitar and play something that sounds like, you know, it's just so big, you know, and gorgeous. So I could go on and on.
I did love the For the Roses, because I heard this version first, then I heard the For the Roses after, and I did love the congas and the bass in the Elm version, but I also love going to this version and hearing just that really intimate, stripped down. Oh, brilliance. This is brilliance. Chris, your hand is up.
I just wanted to offer Paz some support in that you can do this, man. You can learn this song. You can sing this song.
Yeah.
Because remember, every time I think, you know, I have no right to sing a song because it's written from a feminine perspective or something like that, and it's written for a woman by a woman, and I think of that guy who told Joni, you write sexless, genderless, songs, and they're really about humanity. And anybody can play. I mean, if Broadway can swap up genders in roles that you wouldn't believe, there's no reason why you can't find the empathy in the lyric to really learn what the song is trying to say by performing it yourself. It's
I could do it if I could play it. What I said was that, yeah, it's really difficult for me to play that song and sing because I tried.
Okay.
And a lot of the times when I do sing her stuff, I do change the gender because it means more to me singing it that way, because I'm wrapping my mind or my heart around something in my life that makes me want to sing it that way. So
some people
but
do.
I would sing that one if I could. I'd also do Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire, but I just can't play it and sing it.
Well, pause. You have till Archives 3 to podcast to learn Woman of Heart and Mind.
Well, I just have to say this. Bette Midler would say, a lot of you straight guys have a lot of trouble wrapping your little mouths around this one.
I love her.
All right, Bob.
So just on the gender thing, I'll just say, I just always go back to Tom Waits' Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. I mean, he wrote that song, obviously from a woman's point of view, but he sings it brilliantly, and it's been covered several times, sometimes by women, sometimes by men. A good song, it just doesn't matter, right? I mean, you sing the song. A lot of Joni covers have been reinvented gender-wise. It's just silly. With Woman of Heart and Mind, there's been maybe one cover who called it Man of Heart and Mind, which is totally dumb, and it doesn't meter out.
Yeah, that doesn't. There's no such thing as a man of heart and mind, so they're not even go there.
No, there's a man of heart on, but not heart and mind. So I mean, that really shouldn't matter, especially now.
No.
I would sing any song the way it was written by the lyrics. I mean, if I'm going to do a play, I'm not going to change the playwright's words. Why would I change the songwriter's words?
Yeah,
I agree.
I was so impressed with Seal's version of Strange Boy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He did not change the gender.
Of course not. Seal's brilliant.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I was going to say Glenn Hansard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing with Glenn Hansard. But I was going to say also, what about Les that sang the version of the Magdalene Laundries?
Yeah, Les Ross.
Les Ross from UK, who's missing in action. I've not been able to. Does anybody have any communications with him?
He hadn't posted on Instagram in a long time, and he was very active on Instagram.
And the same thing, Leaf. I've not been able to get a hold of. When I went to the UK this summer, contact both of them. I talked to Chris Marshall, who we were going to get together, but then couldn't. But I couldn't get a hold of either one of them. Sorry.
All this talk about Instagram now, it must be the start of the latest style. I don't follow one of you on there. Jeremy Gloff, add me. Okay. Any other words on Woman of Heart and Mind before we move on?
The last chord sounds like a Bond song. I always thought that. The last chord in that song sounds like a James Bond song.
All right, next we have a version of Case of You with Joni and the Dulcimer. No one's going to give that anything but a thumbs up, right? I mean, this is classic Joni Mitchell doing one of her most known songs. I don't have much to say about it. It's there. It's good. It's great. Does anyone have anything to add? That this one speaks for itself, I feel like. Okay. Maybe we will get to Shadows and Light tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Ooh, my eyesight's bad. Blue. We have a version of Blue, Alone at the Piano. I don't have much to say about that. It's great. It's great to have a live version of Blue. Thumbs up. We'll probably get more of those when the archives come out. Okay. Then we flipped over the record to side 3 for what I considered the most iconic moment of the album, which wasn't even Joni singing. It was Joni talking. I have friends that know about this part of the album that weren't even Joni Mitchell fans, that know about where Joni's talking about, no one told Van Gogh, paint a starry night again, man. And the original CD version does cut out some of her guitar tuning. So they did cut some of the stuff out of the original CD.
Thank God.
It'll be good to have it back, or not, I guess, it seems, on these reissues. But we have David, then Chris.
I just want to shout out for John Kelly in Pay Paradise, and he does this it's like nobody ever said to Keith Haring, paint another radiant baby.
No one said to Jeremy Gloff, do another Joni Mitchell Phonogenics series, man. Okay, we're talking about the circle game. I forgot to say that. This is another version of circle game. I'll give it a thumbs up. It's harmless. It doesn't reinvent the song, but it's a nice live version. Oh, Chris is giving it a sideways. Chris.
I missed the choir, people singing along. In fact, the people in the audience sound too good. This is no, I'm serious. They sound like they are like a real choir, like somebody mixed a real choir in there.
You want that Lookout Mountain choir, right?
They don't sound, out of tune enough. She talks about how, they more out of tune voices the better, but then
right.
I swear I'm hearing people singing 3-part harmony, and like in a balanced way. It's weird.
You should have heard the people singing for Brandy in Red Rocks. I mean, it was so loud and so in tune. It sounded a record. It was like, what? Amazing.
So I've got a question though. When she sang Blue, I saw somebody was looking before through, some other, I guess, shows done in the 1974 tour. Did she only sit at the piano for Blue? That was it? That was the only...
No, last time I saw Richard, right?
Which appears elsewhere in this record, not
right.
with that set.
Oh, okay.
So I'm guessing, they might have reordered stuff, which is fine. But
right.
I'm just trying to put the live show together in terms of, what might have been part of this acoustic set. Okay, sorry.
Never apologize, Chris. Bob, you're next.
Yeah, so circle game, obviously, as I've said before, she's reinventing herself in concert for the auditorium times. She's not playing by the rules, but she does give in to the rules on this one, talking to the crowd, warming them up, getting some laughter, and then giving them the sing-along crowd pleaser that they came to hear. So, kudos for her. This song is just so good. I mean, when I think about my own son growing up, and he got married 2 weeks ago, and which, I still get teary-eyed thinking about it. But, when you have kids that you watch grow up, this song becomes, it takes on so much more meaning, dragging my feet to slow those circles down, and you just can't do it, right? So they grow up, look at Sloan. I mean, she's growing up really fast.
She's a riot.
So it's a lot of fun. And, I think it's her one of her several indulgences to the audience to give them what they want in this show.
All right, Mark.
Muted.
Yep, you're muted, friend.
Well, in response to Chris's question, I'm looking at a set list here from Boston in January of '74, and it's got Same Situation on it. For Free, which is on the Miles of Owls record. I'm looking for piano songs here. I thought there was another one on here, but I'm not seeing it now. This Flight Tonight, You Turned Me On, I'm a Radio, Free Man in Paris, Situation, Same Situation, Just Like This Train, Woodstock, Cactus Tree, Big Yellow Taxi, People's Parties, All I Want, Case of You, For the Roses, Cold Steel and Sweet Fire for Free, Trouble Child, Help Me, Car to Help. Blue isn't even on this one.
And, and the funny thing was, of course, she released Help Me. It was her biggest single. Free Man in Paris was one of her top 5 singles, and she did not play it on this tour at all. She played it in '76, but not in the '74 tour. So I'm sure a record company's like, Joni Asylum saying, what the hell? You're supposed to promote an album. You're supposed to promote your singles, your hits. Give them some airplay. But not Joni.
Not our Joni. All right. Any other thoughts on Circle Game? Moving on, we have our only song from Court and Spark on this live album. Court and Spark was her biggest hit album, chart-wise and sales-wise, correct? At the time. So the live album that came out shortly after only had one song from the album, and it's People's Parties. I kind of give a sideways to this version. I appreciate the simplicity of it, but I like the... and even the song itself is one of the more stripped-down songs on Court and Spark, but I do like the harmonies and stuff from the album version. I missed them a little bit. Does anyone have anything to say about this version? Chris is giving it a thumbs up. I don't have anything to say about it. All right, we'll keep moving if no one's got any thoughts. Next. Ooh, my eyesight. She's back to the dulcimer, doing a version of All I Want from Blue. I don't have much to say about this. I do miss the congas from the Blue version. I do love that. But this is it's cool to have a live version of the song. Anyone have anything to say about it? All right. I just feel like it's peak Joni Mitchell. There's really not much to say other than it's great to have it. Next. Oh, David, before we move on.
Yeah. I don't know where I just, I'm not like, I don't listen to this album a lot, so I was just listening to it a couple days ago. And somewhere around here, I'm not sure it was on this song, but somewhere I thought, boy, her voice just doesn't sound that good. I mean, she kind of sounds like she's tired. Or I don't mind the vibrato or whatever. I don't know. Her just voice started not sounding great. So that's all.
There was a point in the album where her voice started to be a little grating to me, and I never feel that way about Joni Mitchell. So it might have been this stretch of the album also, and whatever. All right. Well, next, did anyone did we do the thumbs up or thumbs down for All I Want? I guess I give it a thumbs up. I mean, it's harmless. Bob gives it the sideways. Yeah, I'd say. All right. Real Good for Free. Doesn't she change the name of the hotel in this live version?
Fairmont Hotel.
It's the Fairmont Hotel. Then she laughs a little bit. I was going to laugh, Bob, when you said if you put for free in the internet. I was going to say these days nothing will come up anymore. But didn't she do this on the Refuge of the Roads video and also call it Real Good for Free? I feel that's the title she used moving forward for this song.
Maybe so. And then some artists actually recorded it as He Played Real Good for Free. Oh. Which makes it real easy.
What if she does another version with Brandi Carlile? It's called By the Quick Lunch Stand. He played real good for. All right. Jack, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think this may be my favorite song on the album, actually. I really love this version. I really like this song. To me, it's got so much humility in it, where she's kind of exposing this. I don't know. It's not really a flaw, but like she at the end of it, where she knows she should go over there and sing with this guy, but then whatever, turns around and walks away. I don't know. Something about this song just really, really kind of resonates with me. I love it.
I mean, it does. It's one of the first times in her career, and she's done it a couple other times, where she really talks about art versus commerce and the trajectory of becoming an artist into a celebrity. So I think, where do we stand with that in 2022, right? Let's not even go there. Okay, Bob, your hand is up.
Yeah, so what I love about this version is the near the end of it, when Tom Scott comes in on either a soprano sax or a clarinet and does the solo that he's doing, and you realize, oh, this guy is playing really good. Tom Scott's a hell of a player.
Not for free, all right. I bet he wasn't playing for free.
Well, not on this record, but it just drive home the point of I was walking past the park and this guy's playing this instrument and it sounds really, really, really good. So I think that in the live version adds a really, really nice touch this song, a real genuine touch.
All right, and we have a lot of people looking to talk about this one. We have David, then Chris, then Mark, and then Sue. So let's start off with David.
It's a lovely version, and I'm glad she corrected her rhyming of schools and jewels, or did a little bit better than School and Jewel. So
I second that one. All right, Chris.
Yeah, what I love about this is, now we have the archives and we have a whole bunch of other, YouTube has given us access to a whole bunch of different performances where she might have sang this song. But really to hear it, and as somebody said before, that, when Tom Scott walked out, he could hear a pin drop. Well, it's really magical, I think, the way this recording did capture her telling the story to this audience that was listening, rapt to it, and you could feel it. And I agree. This is, I think, one of the strongest tracks on the record, and it really isn't even maybe the song doing it or the performance, but it's the event that's happening, the actual synergy between her and the audience, and it's real good.
I feel that magic is definitely there. Whatever the magic is, it's there. All right, we got Mark and then Sue.
Well, this is going to be kind of repetitious of what Chris said, but one of the things I absolutely love about this version of the song is the silence in the audience and the sound. Just there's something about the sound of that piano in whatever venue that was recorded in. But yeah, the audience is silent, but they're there. You can feel that there is somebody listening. There's this whole auditorium or whatever it is, full of people, and they're intent on this song. They're listening very carefully and very closely. And it's beautiful. It's another one that I really love on this record. That's all.
Y'all are really warming me up to this album. It really is happening. Okay, Sue and then Bob.
So does anybody remember which version it is when she starts playing and she goes, "Happy trails to you"? Because that's what
that's. Was it like the '95 Gene Autry show?
Maybe, I don't know, but when she did that, I realized that this is another throwback from her childhood of when she loved the Roy Rogers show and the singing cowboys and all that. So the
Sons of the Pioneers.
Yeah, right. And so the to listen to the piano, it almost feels like a little galloper in a way, It's really great. And
James Taylor has described it as it being a like a Western kind of.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it never occurred to me, because the song is the song that you hear on Ladies of the Canyon, and it's like, oh wow, it gives another dimension to the song, which is pretty interesting, that because if it's a throwback to her childhood and then now she's really famous, like the way the song is going, she wants to be a regular person. She's done that in many different songs too. It's like, fame is keeping her away from just, walking down the street and singing with this guy, or, it's separating her from, just hanging out with people, which is pretty interesting. It's a great song. I love it.
It really is a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bob.
I think this was the first and one of only a small handful of songs she wrote in 3/4 time. Waltz time. As Van Halen would say, bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. And it's interesting to note that this was, of course, first appeared on Ladies of the Canyon in '70, but by '74, she was a huge star. So, of course, she's going to these huge rock venues where she has, security and entourage, her own, private entrances, as opposed to pulling up, to a small club, walking in the front door maybe, or, being backstage for a bit before she comes on. So it really takes on a little more meaning in on that effect.
All right. I don't know if I did the thumbs up, but everyone gives this one the thumbs up, right? All right. Any other thoughts on this wonderful performance? All right. We have one more song of the solo set. We had an acoustic version of both sides now, and I just never really cared about this version. I think it's fine, but I just don't. It's nice to have a live version, but this one didn't do too much for me considering what came before and what came after. But Sue, you have something to say, and then we have Mark, and then Bob.
So what's interesting about her version of this song is that she's using the strumming style of "You Turn Me On a Radio" because they're in the same tuning to play both sides now, and it's pretty interesting. But it the mood of it is not very upbeat. You know what I'm saying? Like that where she slides it down. It just makes the song sound different. It's not the original, the way she played it originally, which I find fascinating. She has a very great way of playing both sides now, not only in Clouds, but all the recordings of her playing that song in the cafes. So this is a totally different like rhythm that she's using for this song. And does it work? I'm not really sure. I think I like the other versions better.
Yeah, I give this one the sideways. What's everyone's rating on this one?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to do that too.
Oh, okay. Well, Mark, you look like the Lone Ranger with the thumbs up, unless I missed somebody with my wonky Bell's palsy eye. That's almost there.
I think the only reason that I gave it a thumbs up is that she does change the lyric at the very end of it, and I like the way she does that. She sings, "I really don't know," and just kind of leaves that open-ended. I mean, I really don't know. So, I don't know shit.
Well, I can relate to that.
Me too.
All right, we have Bob, then pause.
And so on this particular version, whether you like it or not, she changes that little third line, like ice cream castles in the air. She drops that note down a bit. The only time she ever did that, which is a little off-putting at first. I've gotten used to it, so I expect it. But back in the day, I went to a local concert, and some people were doing Crosby, Stills, Nash covers and Joni Mitchell covers, and this girl sang the song in that version, and I thought she was flatting the note. I said, I'm not sure what she's doing, but she's ruining that note. Ice cream castles in the air. It wasn't on the original version that way, and nobody else ever did it that way, as far as I know. But Joni, I think, had to make it interesting, because it's one of, obviously, her most iconic song, and will be recorded way past when I'm dead, and hopefully somebody else is keeping up the Joni Mitchell cover database. People are still going to be doing both sides now, and River, of course, every October, November, December, January. But I'm not going to say that I'm crazy about it, but again, I do appreciate her doing something different for a live show, as opposed to taking an iconic song and doing it just in the style that people are used to hearing. So, thumb up for her.
So you think the girl in that bar knew the Miles of Isles version, and that's why she was singing it that way?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much.
How interesting.
So. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if it's the only version someone knew of Big Yellow Taxi was the Miles of Isles version? Okay, pause. You're next.
Or the 2007 version.
Even better. That's right.
Yeah, I'm not wild about this version of the song. I think I agree with what Bob says. For me, I like the original, but nothing will compare with the orchestral version. And then, the other day when I heard her do this at Newport again in her current voice, it was mind-boggling to me. The transition of Joni Mitchell from then until now, and I just appreciate her more and more every day. And it's nice to have this version. It's okay. I'm not going to poo-poo it, but not my favorite version. So many good ones out there that she has done, as have other people.
All right. Well, we're moving into the last stretch of the album. All right. Next is Carrie. And then after that, we're just going to move right past that because it's so bad I can't even allow us to talk about that in my podcast. Okay, Carrie, thumbs down. I'm sorry, y'all. Anyone? Thumbs down. Oh, Bob. Oh, we have a side. Oh. Okay, this version of Carrie, when I was driving in the car, I'm like, I forgot about it. I just totally blocked it out of my mind. And then when the song started, I'm like, what song is this? Then when the verse came in, I'm like, oh no. Oh dear. I forgot about this version of Carrie. Bob, tell us why you like it.
So I love this song because of Robin Ford's distorted guitar that he throws in there, in this version. Obviously it's miles of aisles away from what she did on Blue. But again, I give her kudos for stepping out, changing, totally reinventing the song and changing the arrangement around. I hated it when I first heard it. I said, what the hell is this? But listening to it today, I said, okay, I'm down with that. And Robin Ford's guitar, I mean, throughout this record is really good, but on this song, he gets to shine. And he really loves that distortion, whatever pedals he's using. Maybe Paz can talk to that, but I love it.
Shine on Reverend Pearson. Shine on Robin Ford's guitar. Okay. David, you're next.
Yeah, I'm just grateful for the lyric, the sea is full of sheep. I often look at the sea and say, look, the sea is full of sheep.
Well, pause.
There's some great playing on here. I think that's just an overdriven amp. I don't know that it's a guitar effect pedal, but there's some great performance on here. The piano comes to mind, and I dig it. I'll tell you that I really loved Cyndi Lauper's version of this.
Oh, that was great.
And I love the way that she played at the thing in Vegas. I think it knocked Joni on her ass as well because it just was so powerful the way she did it. So I like it.
Okay, we have Jack and then back to Bob.
Yeah, I like, again, I have to put this in context of my Rite of Spring. It's the first gorgeous day after a long shitty winter. I've got the top down, I'm out in the country, I'm singing my ass off along with this, and it just works. So in the context of the environment I play this album, it's great.
Yeah, I love that. I love that visual of you just singing your ass off to the Miles of Isles version of Carrie. You know what? I'm doing that on the first day of spring in your honor. I love it. That's so awesome. And my rating has gone up for this album from when we started this discussion. Okay, Bob.
So just a couple of things real quick. Jack, give me a couple of weeks heads up when you're going to do that ride, and I'll fly up from Greenville and we'll take that ride together.
Let's all go. Let's do a caravan with Jack, just blasting Miles of Isles.
All right, I'm going to keep you to it.
Hot dogs and deep dish pizza.
I can get Greenville to Chicago is a pretty cheap flight.
Cool.
And my other point is, just as a trivia note, on this record, when they're doing the band, piano is from Larry Nash. Joni's not playing during the band stuff. So Larry Nash is doing the piano for the LA Express.
It'd be funny, our podcast all of a sudden gets millions of viewers, and Joni's like, why does Miles of Isles get so many plays on Spotify on the first day of spring?
Well, no, Miles, it gets no plays on Spotify because she fucking pulled all of her shit off of Spotify.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Untitled. Why does it get so many plays on Untitled? Okay. Any of your thoughts on Carrie? I'm moving from the thumbs down to the sideways because I'm the first day of spring. Okay, Chris,
I just want to mention that don't know if anybody has done this, but has anybody compared the version she did in Vegas to Cyndi Lauper, that is, to what she did at TNT?
It's definitely different. It's better in Vegas.
She didn't do
better
Carrie.
in Vegas.
She didn't do Carrie in Vegas.
Oh no, that was
Magdalena Laundry.
She did Magdalene Laundry.
Oh, no, a really good version of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I started crying watching that.
Really good.
Amazing. Yeah.
No, but the one she did at the TNT thing is what I was talking about.
All right.
I just want to, the sea is full of sheep. Isn't that a reference to tourists with no tans that have not been exposed to the sun?
I think it's white caps.
Yeah, white cap waves.
Oh, is it?
The foam on the water.
I don't know why I thought that. I thought I heard it somewhere else, but never mind. Never mind.
Well, the live portion of the album ends with a live version of The Last Time I Saw Richard. Is it so? This is not Joni on the piano here, or is it?
I think it is on this track. Yeah.
Okay, and she's playing it differently than on the Blue album, at least for the first section of the song. Now we can sit here and talk about who likes and who doesn't like the waitress voice. And you know what? I think for me, it goes day by day, because one day I'm going to be like, I love that. That's so funny. Then some days I'm like, oh, Christ. So even I myself don't know how I feel about this.
I think she did this at several performances of this song.
Oh, Lord.
Affected the waitress voice.
Who in this group can do the best impersonation of Joni's waitress?
Drink up now. It's getting on time to go.
Oh.
Drink up now. It's getting on time to close.
Very good, Mark.
Wins.
Hey, thumbs up, thumbs down, or sideways? Last time I saw Richard, Miles of Isles.
I like it.
I didn't need the band coming in, honestly. When the band came in, I'm like, oh, I don't need a full band on Last Time I Saw Richard. But that's just a personal preference. Does anyone have anything to say about this version? Well, drink up now. Oh, Bob does.
It's the band is back, but they're really very subtle. You know, they're not back in a big way. I love the little subtle touches they add to the track. I did not like the drink up now, it's getting time to close, but I can deal with that, you know, because I think originally it's like, well, that detracts from the serious nature of the song. You know, it's a pretty intense song. It's very literate, and it demands a certain amount of attention. And I think that's like, whoa, that's like a slap in the face. Somebody throws a glass of cold water in your face. But I'm okay with it now. I'm kind of like you, Jeremy. You know, some days it's okay, and some days it's like, what? That was not
stupid.
Yeah.
You know what though? Honestly, if I heard that voice, I'd be getting out of the bar too. I'd be like, oh, okay, here's my credit card. Let's go.
I like Susan Calso's version of this better than this version, but I like it anyways. Because it's Joni Mitchell.
No, pause, you said it wrong. It's fucking Joni Mitchell.
Oh, I forgot. Yes.
which pod? We gotta do the best of Phonogenics. That was Paz's best moment where he's like, you guys, it's fucking Joni Mitchell. Which album was that? Was it Taming the Tiger or Both Sides now? I can't remember. Okay. Chris, last time I saw Richard, Miles of Isles.
You know, this is another great storytelling song. And I think she used, when the band comes in at the end, it kind of takes that last verse and sort of makes it the epilogue. You know, it sort of gives it a little bit of a cinematic quality, which is okay. I mean, I kind of got it, you know, the version on Blue, which was, you know, straight ahead, just her and the piano. But I could see her wanting to make it a little bit more theatrical for this type of a venue. And in that way, it is successful. So I think I'm going to change my sideways to an up.
And I'll change mine from a down to a sideways. You know what else I thought listening to this album? I'm so glad that she didn't have the band around when she did the original versions. Because to think that she might have recorded Carrie like that if she had a full band when she was making Blue, I'm sure glad that didn't happen. Because, you know, it's cool to have these versions, I'm glad the band didn't come along till Court and Spark. So just a personal thought I had when I was driving around today. All right, we're moving into the last two songs. The last two live songs, which are actually recorded in the studio with a little applause dubbed in, right? Jericho, of course, would appear a couple years later, 3 years exactly, right, on her Don Juan's Reckless Daughter album in a more stripped down version. So it's interesting to hear the version she did with the LA Express. I like the Jericho version on Don Juan's more, I think. And I haven't listened to this one too much, but I liked it more than I remembered. I thought it was fine. It's pretty faithful. Both versions are pretty close, which is different instruments.
So she says at the top of the song that she's going to play a couple of new songs for you. What did she actually do in the concert? Because it sounds like she said that, unless it was an overdub.
Well, that's cut out on the original CD pressing, must be.
She played these in the concert. She certainly did. And then how do you say they're on the studio? Because I don't see that on the liner notes.
On my version, it's from Los Angeles, 8/14 through 17th, 74, Universal.
See, the legend I always heard is that they're actually studio tracks that she just said that they were live, but they really weren't. But
I have also heard that these are two studio tracks. Yes, which is
why I call them
ersatz.
Recorded in the Universal Amphitheater, a pretty big studio.
When you look at any of the set lists, though, these songs aren't on any set list.
Jericho does sound live to me on this version that I'm listening to that I have, but the Love or Money does not sound live. It's a little.
Well, I know she played Love and Money on August 8th in Pine, wherever. I know. I just remember it. Actually, I don't know why. I things I remember in the world, but
well, my understanding is, and I questioned Les about this, and he said that Simon Montgomery claims that these were recorded in a studio, and Les says Simon is rarely wrong. So I don't know where he got his information, but Paz is right. It's not credited on the record anywhere. That it's doesn't say anything about studio recording on the record.
They do sound a little crisper to me than the other live stuff. Okay, David, was your hand up from before, or is it still up?
No.
Okay, so we have Sue and then Bob.
So lately I've been having like memory issues as far as like I really want to remember exactly when I listened to something and I can't remember, but I remember distinctly that somebody sent me a live version of Love and Money. That sounds, I mean, it sounds like it sounds like the song, but it sounds a little different. And I have to go and search that out now. I think it was a friend at work sent me a live show, and Love and Money was on it. Or Bob, do you have a version of a live?
Yeah, I mean, she played her on every show she did in '76.
Yeah.
You know, before she aborted that tour, it was on every single show.
Right. Yeah, it was the tour she did with Jocko and Bobby, and what's her name, Bobby Hall.
Bobby Hall. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I think I have it somewhere. I have to go look for it now because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I'm totally with Mark. You know, Simon says these were Simon says. Raise your hand. But no, Simon says these were both studio recordings, and when I heard them today, you can tell they definitely are.
Yeah. All
the musicians. I mean, this is studio work. This is not live work at all. And there's not a single drop of applause until like the last 2 seconds of the song, and then there's like a smattering of applause, and then the next song.
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's cheesy. It's just cheesy, I think.
Yeah.
She should have done like Pat Benatar did on Live from Earth and had Love is a Battlefield at the end. She didn't put applause on that. That was a studio track.
Yeah.
All right. Jericho, Miles of Isles, by the way. Thumbs up or down? I give it a sideways, I think.
I just love the song.
I love the song. Love or Money, I think I give it a thumbs down. I never liked the song.
Love songs.
I'm sorry, Sue, but I never liked it either. I'm sorry, Sue. I know.
Firmament of Tinseltown.
It just goes on and it just it never has something that I can dig into with it.
It's an interesting Joni Mitchell song because of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
I have to agree, Sue.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Jericho. I like this version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was scratching my head the first time I heard it because it was like, wow, it doesn't even sound like a Joni Mitchell song. But, I think that it grew on me a little bit. There's certain lines in the song that I really love.
Is it the boom boom ketchup color?
No, it's about the curtain. I can't remember the line. It's like she comes in.
Vaguely
she floats and
yeah,
go
right. Yeah,
lace,
I mean that whole scene is
lace
really
like.
cool. But it's like we said before about other songs. It's very cinematic,
I wonder if she wrote that on solo acoustic or solo piano, or if she wrote it with the band.
That's a really good question.
It's such an interesting piece of music for her that I can't imagine how she wrote it. Right. Maybe on the archives there'll be like a piano version of Love or Money, and we're gonna be like, this is the best song ever, without that disco-y kind of shit.
Right.
So it's probably cinematic because she wrote this 20th Century Fox.
I know, right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know what? Some of the imagery reminds me of Blue Boy too.
Oh, okay.
That just occurred to me.
But only had a melody like that.
I know, yeah.
I love that one.
Well, are you guys up to talk about Shadows and Light now for another 3 hours?
Oh, no.
No. But let's talk about For Love or Money covers.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jack, we'll have Jack talk, then we'll end with Bob, per tradition.
So Jericho, I never really cared for on this album, though for some reason I love it on Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. And I actually really like For Love or Money. The one part, where is the one, the mood, sweetheart. I don't know. There's just something in her phrasing of that line that I don't know. It gets me. But I'm not wild about Jericho on this album. Anyway, that's all.
So Bob, this is gonna be one of the last times when you tell us about covers.
I know this is, I think, the last new song that never got played anywhere else. And there is one little skinny cover of For Love or Money, and it's by our good friend Ian Shaw, who put this track on his record, Drawn to All Things, in 2006, his Joni Mitchell tribute album, which is brilliant. And everyone owns it. If you don't, go out and find it today. It's hard to find. But he had 3 songs on that album that were the first time they were ever covered. Talk to Me, For Love or Money, and a song from Tame the Tiger. I forget the name of the song. But maybe
Red Balloon?
No. But he had 3 songs that were the only ones and only times been covered. So only one cover of this one, for good reason. I mean, this just wasn't known very well.
Right.
And it's not, if you're going to cover a Joni Mitchell song, I want to do Love or Money, said nobody ever.
Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, I will say, when I was sitting in the coffee shop in January 2021, I guess, thinking about the list of Joni Mitchell albums, originally there was going to be a Miles of Isles discussion between Court and Spark and Hissing in Summer Lawns, but we decided to stick with the studio albums. So I'm actually glad that we went back and devoted a whole episode. Jim's off camera, but I really have Jim to thank for it, because in one of his comments somewhere, he's like, I don't know how Jeremy thinks he's going to talk about all the... I wanted this episode to be Miles of Isles, Shadows and Light, and all the compilations. So...
Yeah. I remember that.
And then you woke up.
Jim woke me up. So, Jim, if you hear this or watch the podcast, you were right. I was wrong.
You should know us better by now, Jeff.
Yeah. And I really, really enjoyed this discussion. And it's interesting. We were talking about people's opinions changing. None of the things we ever said made me like something less. If anything, it's made me like some things more, except for Travelogue. But Miles of Isles, definitely, this has been a great discussion. So let's go around the circle and do our... Bob.
Just to add to that, some of the comments that David and Mark have said have made me go back and re-listen and change my opinions on songs that I didn't hold in high esteem that I now do. So thank you guys. Hats, doff my cap.
Is there any songs off the top of your head you can remember? Because I'm curious.
What was the song that
Probably Sire of Sorrow.
Sire of Sorrow.
Yeah, Sire of Sorrow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It gave me brand new life to that song. And I
Yeah.
hear it now, and I've heard it a couple of times in the past month in a brand new light. So thank you for that.
And I've always loved it, but David, after that discussion, I mean, we've had some damn good discussions in this circle here. Woo! Ooh, I'm getting the goosebumps. All right. Miles of Isles, Joni Mitchell, 1974. We did it. We did a whole Phonogenics episode. What do y'all give it on a scale of 1 to 10? Bob, you're always in the upper left. What do you give it a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'm with old Jim Lama Dama Ding Dong on this one. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, which for me, I think maybe I bumped it up a couple of notches this week listening to it. Yeah, it's a nice historical piece. It's Joni at her commercial peak, and some of it's dated, but I can get over that. 8 out of 10.
All right. Paz, Miles of Isles.
I'll do a 7 on this one. It's not my fave. I enjoy it sometimes. I'm going to enjoy it on the first day of spring, 2023.
Yep. Hell yeah.
Jack Merkel.
Yeah, we all had to do an email on that day. Okay, Jack Merkel.
Well, it's not really on the first day of spring, technically. It's the first beautiful day that, because the first day of spring could be 35 degrees out. It's really that first, almost like a religious experience, that first beautiful day after a long, shitty winter. And I give this a 7 on general listening. I give it a 10 on the first day of spring.
All right, David, you're next.
I'm going to go with 7.5.
All right. Sue.
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Oh, I love it.
Ooh, you go, girl.
You go, girl. Mark.
I love this album.
Well, side 2 of the vinyl LP, Cactus Tree through Blue, gets a 10 from me. The rest of it, probably a 7.
All right, Chris.
I'm going to go for a 7, but it's barely a 7. I think I was more inclined to go with a 6. I'm up to a 7. So we move.
All right. And did I miss anybody? I will say originally, my initial thought was I was going to give this album a 4. But after listening to it today and having this discussion, I too will give it a 7. I think it's got some historical, very important historical moments. And I think let's let Joni have a little bit of fun at the peak of her career, reinventing some of her songs. She's allowed to have a little bit of fun, and I'm there for it. So, oh my God, we had a whole damn episode on Miles of Isles.
Which I knew we would.
You did. You scoffed.
Right again, Bob.
I'm like, we're just going to talk about it for 20 minutes. Bob scoffed
Needs
at
to
me.
get her ass back in the studio. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I won't go there yet.
All right.
Got a surprise coming.
Well, we are going to meet in October and talk about Shadows and Light. And then November is going to be our final episode of the first series. Because we're not going to talk about hits and misses, are we?
No, hell no. There's no point in any of that.
That's no point.
We're just going to do a quick run through the
Wait a minute, Urge for Going. Have we discussed Urge
No,
for
so we will discuss that.
Oh, one more cover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We have one more cover. And then on the archives, someday when we get to those, perhaps someone covered some of those songs. Like Eastern Rain. Didn't someone cover that?
Oh, yeah, sure. Fairport Convention.
Yep.
Well,
all right, friends.
Are we going to set a date? We hang out after you close to set a date for the next one?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me say thank you to my friends. I honestly had so much fun tonight. And thank you to the Patreon subscribers, to the viewers, and we thank you to Brandy Carlisle for getting Joni Mitchell back on the stage. Get her in that studio. Get her to do another album. Just don't sing over her. All right. We will see you all next month.